An American lawyer has warned that Prince Harry's admission of drug use could jeopardize his visa for the U.S., insisting that there is no exception for royalty. The Duke of Sussex disclosed that he had previously used cocaine, cannabis, and magic mushrooms in his shocking memoir Spare and in TV appearances. The Daily Mail reports that there are currently requests for the publication of the Duke's U.S. visa application so that it may be determined whether he acknowledged using drugs before moving to California in 2020 with Meghan Markle. Conservative Think Group is engaged in a legal dispute with government representatives in Washington, D.C., who adamantly refuse to release any information, including any messages or emails. His visa application must now be made public, according to the D.C.-based Heritage Foundation, so that American taxpayers can determine if Harry disclosed his drug use. For lying to immigration officials, there are severe consequences under U.S. immigration law, including deportation and a ban on citizenship applications. Nima Rahmani, a former federal prosecutor, told Page 6 that admitting to using drugs is typically grounds for exclusion. That implies that because Prince Harry acknowledged using cocaine, mushrooms, and other substances, his visa ought to have been rejected or revoked. There is no exception for royalty or recreational use, Mr. Rahmani, president of the Los Angeles-based West Coast Trial Attorneys, noted. Harry acknowledged using cocaine, cannabis, and magic mushrooms in Spare and the subsequent TV appearances. He claimed that cocaine was more of a social thing while marijuana and psychedelics really helped with his trauma. His visa application should now be made public, according to the Heritage Foundation. This request is in the public interest, said Mike Howell, director of the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project, in light of the potential revocation of Prince Harry's visa for illicit substance use and further questions regarding the prince's drug use applicants for entering the United States. Applicants for U.S. visas with any history of drug use will typically have their If border officials did know, according to the Heritage Foundation, Harry's case raises concerns about whether he received preferential treatment because he is a prince and his wife is a TV personality, which they maintain would be against the law. Harry reveals in his memoir Spare that he first tried cocaine at the age of 17 while attending a shooting weekend. On other occasions, he delivered a couple extra lines. He also acknowledged using marijuana after his first date with Meghan and experiencing hallucinations at a celebrity-studded event in California. The hallucinogenic substance ayahuasca, which he described as having a positive effect on him, brought me a sense of relaxation, release, comfort, and a lightness that I managed to hold on to for a period of time, he added. The Duke allegedly used the Amazonian plant ayahuasca to treat patients with mental illness during an encounter with therapist Dr. Gabor Mate, a vocal proponent of decriminalizing drugs. In response, Harry said, "Cocaine didn't do much for me. It was more of a social thing and provided me a sense of belonging for sure. I also think it probably made me feel different from how I was feeling, which was kind of the idea. Marijuana is different. It really did help me," the user said. After the January release of Spare, in which the prince admitted to using drugs on a regular basis, immigration experts said that by confessing to using illegal drugs, he may have put his visa at risk. The Heritage Foundation, which was a key player in the conservative movement under Ronald Reagan's presidency and had a significant impact on Donald Trump's administration, has now requested access to Harry's visa application in order to determine whether he was properly vetted before entering the country. The group also wants to know if he disclosed his drug use to authorities, which, according to immigration experts, should have resulted in a denial of his application for permanent residence in the U.S. Harry's own statements in his memoir and other TV interviews about using cocaine, cannabis, and magic mushrooms are among the evidence gathered by the Heritage Foundation. To support their Freedom of Information request, all of this has been provided to the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services. But Mike Howell, director of the Heritage Oversight Project, maintains that it is in the public interest to know how Harry's case was handled and has appealed the decision. U.S. officials have so far refused to reveal his visa application, citing privacy reasons. To guarantee public trust in how Harry's visa was handled, Mr. Howell has also asked to see any emails, texts, WhatsApp messages, or any correspondence linked to it. His visa might be slated to expire this year because the Sussexes moved to California in 2020. Any renewal application may be harmed by his recently acknowledged drug use history. Everyone applying for temporary or permanent residency in the U.S. must respond to a series of inquiries regarding their past dealings with drugs and the law. He would have been questioned over his drug use. The director of the immigration clinic at George Washington University, Professor Alberto Bentes, recently stated that if the applicant had been truthful in his responses, he should have been rejected. The professor said that Harry would have been perjuring himself on an official U.S. government document if he had not disclosed his drug use. He asserted that the Duke would have benefited by being honest and added that because of his royal rank, he might have obtained preferential treatment from immigration officers. If he wasn't Prince Harry, if he was Fred Jones and he had this kind of a background, he'd have a lot more scrutiny, and I could certainly see the green card being denied.
Prof. Benitez added.
Officials from the U.S. State Department have frequently declined to say whether or not his admission of drug use will cause difficulties with respect to his immigration status or if he had previously mentioned using drugs. We are unable to disclose the specifics of particular visa cases because law protects the confidentiality of visa records. We are unable to make assumptions on someone's potential eligibility for a visa, a representative stated in January. Every time a person applies for a U.S. visa, a consular official examines the circumstances of the application and decides whether the applicant qualifies for the visa in accordance with law. Every visa application is evaluated on an individual basis.